Before we begin, I want you to pause for a moment and be completely honest with yourself. Not with the person sitting next to you, not with the world, but with yourself. Ask yourself this question: if nothing changes in the way I think, act, and take responsibility, where will I be 1 year from now? The answer to that question should make you uncomfortable, because comfort has been costing us far more than we realize. We are standing at the edge of a new year, but new years do not create new PE. Opal, decisions do. Too many of us are carrying the same excuses, the same habits, and the same mindset into the future, hoping that time alone will fix what discipline and action have not. It won't. And tonight, I'm not here to motivate you with nice words or temporary emotion. I'm here to challenge a way of thinking that is quietly holding us back. What you're about to hear may feel uncomfortable. It may challenge beliefs you've held for a long time, but if you stay with me until the end, I'll understand why so many of us feel stuck, frustrated, and powerless. And more importantly, what must change if we want a different future. This is not a speech about blame, it's a speech about ownership. And if you're ready to hear the truth, not THE version, that feels good, but the one that actually changes lives, then stay with me, because what comes next might be the most important mindset shift you make this year. The victim mindset is one of the most dangerous mental traps because it feels justified, emotional, and even righteous, yet it slowly destroys personal growth and collective strength. When a person or a community constantly sees itself only as a victim, responsibility quietly disappears. Every failure is blamed on external CEs, systems, enemies, society, history, while internal weaknesses are ignored. For Muslims, this mindset is especially harmful because Islam is built on accountability, intention, and action. When hardship is reduced to nothing more than oppression by others, the essential Islamic question, what is Allah teaching me through this, is never asked. Living in a victim mindset creates emotional comfort but intellectual paralysis. It allows people to feel morally superior without improving their character or effort. Complaining becomes a substitute for work. Outrage replaces strategy, and emotional reactions take the place of disciplined solutions. Over time, this mindset trains the heart to expect loss and trains the mind to avoid responsibility. Instead of asking how to become stronger, more skilled, or more united, energy is spent replaying grievances and rehearsing blame. This not only weakens individuals, but slowly normalizes failure within the community. From an Islamic perspective, adopting a permanent victim identity contradicts the concept of personal accountability. Every individual is responsible for their choices, their habits, and their level of effort. While injustice is real and oppression exists, Islam never teaches Muslims to live defined by it. The Quran repeatedly emphasizes action, patience, and self-correction alongside reliance on Allah. A victim mindset removes the urgency to improve oneself because it convinces the person that improvement would not matter. Anyway, this belief becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that keeps people stuck in the same cycle year after year. On a practical level, this mindset kills ambition and excellence. When failure is always someone else's fault, there is no reason to earn new skills, refine character, or build long-term solutions. Weak organization, lack of professionalism, and poor leadership are tolerated because accountability feels uncomfortable. Over time, this creates a culture where mediocrity is excused, and strength is viewed with suspicion. The most painful part is that while external enemies may cause harm, the victim mindset ensures that internal growth never happens, making recovery nearly impossible. Faith without action is one of the most subtle the forms of self-deception because it looks spiritual on the surface while producing no real transformation. Many people convince themselves that strong belief alone is enough, assuming that sincere intentions will automatically lead to results. In our reality, Islam never separated belief from effort. Iman was always meant to move the body, discipline the mind, and shape daily behavior. When action is missing, faith slowly becomes a comfort mechanism rather than a driving force for growth and respo. Instability, relying on dua without discipline, creates an imbalance in understanding Allah's system. Dua is powerful, but it was never designed to replace effort. The same hands raised in prayer are meant to work, build, and struggle afterward. Then people ask Allah for change but refuse to change their habits, priorities, and level of effort. They fall into wishful thinking. This mindset treats divine help as a shortcut instead of a support system that strengthens sincere action. Over time, unanswered prayers are blamed on fate rather than on the absence of preparation and consistency. Tawakkul is often misunderstood as passive waiting, when in reality it is active reliance. True reliance on Allah comes after exhausting one's means before. The Prophet tied his camel before trusting Allah, showing that preparation and faith are inseparable. Ignoring this principle leads to laziness disguised as spirituality. People delay learning, avoid hard work, and neglect responsibility, while convincing themselves that Allah will open doors without effort. This misunderstanding weakens both individual character and collective progress. Hope without work slowly erodes self-respect. When goals are not matched with action, disappoint. T-ment becomes a pattern. People begin to lower their expectations, then justify failure by claiming contentment. This is not humility, it is resignation. Islam encourages hope, but it also demands striving with excellence. Action gives faith weight A, ND credibility, turning belief into lived reality. Without it, faith remains theoretical, disconnected from outcomes, and incapable of producing strength, discipline, or leadership in real life. The replacement of knowledge with noise is one of the clearest signs of intellectual decline, and it affects how people think, react, and make decisions. Knowledge requires patience, depth, and humility, while noise thrives on speed, emotion, and repetition. When constant commentary, viral clips, and face-level opinions dominate attention, the ability to think critically begins to weaken. Instead of understanding issues deeply, people react instantly, forming strong opinions based on fragments rather than foundations. This creates confidence without competence, which is far more dangerous than ignorance. In many Muslim spaces today, loud voices are often mistaken for learned ones. Social media rewards emotional intensity, not accuracy or wisdom. As a result, complex religious, political, and social matters are reduced to slogans and oversimplified narratives. This environment discourages careful study and thoughtful disagreement. Reading long-form material, sitting with scholars, and developing structured understanding feels slow compared to scrolling and reacting. Over time, this conditions the mind to seek stimulation rather than truth, making it difficult to engage with nuance or accept correction. When knowledge is replaced by noise, disagreement turns into division. Without haired foundations, discussions become battles of ego rather than searches for clarity. People defend opinions they barely understand because those opinions are tied to identity and emotion. This weakens unity and makes collective progress nearly impossible. Islam places immense value on knowledge because it disciplines emotion and directs action. Without it, decisions are driven by anger, fear, or popularity instead of wisdom and foresight. This shift also affects how problems are addressed. ISA focuses on highlighting issues repeatedly, while knowledge focuses on solving them. Endless commentary creates the illusion of engagement without producing solutions. People feel involved simply by sharing posts or arguing online, while real-world institutions, education, and leadership remain underdeveloped. The energy that should be invested in learning, building, and organizing is consumed by reaction and outrage. A community guided by noise becomes reactive instead of strategic. It trends, responds late, and repeats the same mistakes because lessons are never deeply learned. Knowledge, on the other hand, builds long-term vision and stability. Replacing it with noise does not just reduce understanding, it reshapes behavior, priorities, and outcomes in ways that quietly but steadily weaken intellectual and spiritual strength. Comfort becomes dangerous when it is treated as a goal rather than a byproduct. And this is where many individuals and communities slowly lose their strength. When ease is prioritized above growth, sacrifice begins to feel unnecessary and struggle feels like a mistake. Over time, people start arranging their lives to avoid discomfort at all costs, even if that discomfort is essential for disciple, learning, and progress. This mindset creates a fragile attitude toward hardship, where even small challenges feel overwhelming and unfair. In many cases, comfort disguises itself as balance or self-care, while quietly eroding resilience. Enter entertainment replaces reflection, convenience replaces commitment, and instant gratification replaces long-term effort. The willingness to endure difficulty for a greater purpose begins to fade. Historically, strength was built through patience. Delayed are E-words and responsibility. When comfort dominates daily life, those qualities weaken, making it difficult to commit to demanding goals or sustained effort. For Muslims, this shift is especially damaging because the tradition was never built on ease. First living. The earliest generations faced uncertainty, sacrifice, and hardship, yet their sense of purpose gave them clarity and strength. When modern comfort removes urgency, people lose their drive to learn deeply, serve consistently, or lead courageously. The heart becomes attached to stability and approval rather than truth and responsibility. This attachment makes it harder to speak up, take risks, or stand firm when effort or sacrifice is required. Comfort also weakens discipline. And life is structured around pleasure and convenience. Routines become inconsistent and standards slowly drop. Time is spent consuming rather than creating, reacting rather than building. Physical, mental, and spiritual stamina decline because they are rarely tested. Without challenge, growth stalls, and without growth, confidence becomes shallow. This leads to a quiet dissatisfaction that comfort can never fix, even though people continue chasing more of it. The most damaging effect of comfort is that it normalizes passivity. People begin waiting for ideal conditions instead of working with what they have. Opportunities are delayed, responsibilities are postponed, and potential is left unused. What once required courage and endurance now feels optional. Over time, this mindset produces weakness, not through oppression, but through ease, slowly draining the strength needed for leadership, service, and meaningful contribution. The idea that Islam promotes weakness or passivity is a serious misunderstanding that has developed over time, often reinforced by selective teachings and cultural habits rather than authentic principles. Islam was revealed to build strength in belief, character, intellect, and action. From the beginning, it shaped individuals who were morally grounded yet decisive, spiritually connected yet highly capable. When strength is removed from the understanding of Islam, what remains is an incomplete version that struggles to function in the real world. Strength in Islam is not limited to physical power. It includes mental clarity, emotional control, and moral courage. The tradition consistently emphasizes excellence, responsibility, and preparedness. Believers are encouraged to develop skills, seek knowledge, and fulfill their roles with precision and integrity. Weakness, negligence, and disorder were never praised. When Muslims neglect structure and discipline, they do so in contradiction to the values of their faith. Not because of them, passivity often enters when patience is misunderstood as inaction. Patience in Islam is active endurance, not silent surrender. It involves persistence, effort, and consistency despite difficulty. When this concept is reduced to simply waiting and accepting circumstances without striving to improve them, it strips Muslims of agency. This misinterpretation creates a culture where initiative feels unnecessary and leadership feels risky, even though Islamic history is filled with examples of proactive problem-solving and decisive leadership. Islam also places heavy emphasis on responsibility. Every individual is accountable for their choices, their abilities, and their impact. This sense of accountability naturally produces strength because it demands self-discipline and courage. Avoiding responsibility leads to dependence, while embracing it builds confidence and competence. When Muslims step away from leadership, organization, and excellence, they leave a vacuum that is filled by others, often at the cost of their own interests and values. The absence of strength leads to reliance without readiness and faith without capability. Islam never separated spirituality from effectiveness. The faith calls for believers who are reliable, prepared, and capable of handling trust. Reclaiming this understanding requires rejecting the comfort of passivity and returning to a model of faith that produces resilient individuals who can stand firm, act decisively, and carry responsibility with confidence. The coming years demand a shift from emotional reaction to intentional construction, because progress has never been driven by constant complaint. Builders think differently from complainers. They focus on what can be created rather than what has gone wrong. Complaining provides a temporary emotional release, but it consumes energy without producing results. Building, on the other hand, requires patience, planning, and sustained effort. It is quieter, slower, and far more demanding, which is why fewer people choose it. When a community becomes dominated by complainers, responsibility is diffused. Everyone points out problems, but few take ownership of solutions. This creates a culture where criticism is easy and contribution is rare. Oh, for time. This discourages capable individuals from stepping forward as they are met with judgment rather than support. Builders operate with a different mindset. They accept imperfection and start anyway. They understand that progress is messy and that waiting for ideal conditions is simply another form of delay. Leadership naturally emerges from those willing to build. Leadership is not about titles or visibility, but about consistent contribution. Builders develop systems, institutions, and habits that outlast emotions and trends. They invest in education, structure, and long-term impact, even when recognition is minimal. This approach contrasts sharply with complaint-driven engagement, which peaks during moments of crisis and disappear. When sustained effort is required, building also requires ownership of failure. Unlike complainers, builders expect setbacks and treat them as feedback. This creates resilience and adaptability. A future shaped by builders is one where lessons are learned, strategies are refined, and momentum is preserved. Complaining, however, keeps the focus on blame, preventing learning and growth. It reinforces helplessness rather than capability. The demand of the future is clear. Execution matters more than expression. Ideas, emotions, and intentions must translate into action. Builders align values with behavior and belief with effort. They create environments where excellence becomes normal and responsibility is shared. This mindset transforms seed challenges into opportunities for development and turns uncertainty into direction, laying the foundation for meaningful progress and lasting strength. As we look ahead, the message is clear and unavoidable. The challenges facing Muslims today are real, but they are not an excuse for stagnation. Mindset shapes direction, and direction determines outcomes. Entering the future with blame, passivity, noise, comfort, weakness, or constant complaint guarantees repetition of the same struggles. True change begins when faith is matched with action, when knowledge replaces reaction, when discipline overcomes comfort, and when strength is reclaimed as a core value. The Ummah does not rise through emotion alone, but through ownership, excellence, and consistent effort. The future belongs to those who are willing to build, lead, and carry responsibility with sincerity and courage. I wish you clarity in thought, strength in action, and consistency in purpose as you move forward. May your efforts be meaningful and your intentions sincere. Thank you for listening, and may the year ahead be one of growth, responsibility, and real progress.